Yes.
As in, I totally believe you.
Yeah.
Ways and means. It's a Friday. March 27th at 2:20, we are hearing an amendment to H 933, which is an act relating to miscellaneous administrative and policy changes to tax law. And I believe Representative Galfetti, you have an amendment for us.
Yes, Representative Galfetti for the record, Madam Chair, and I thank the committee for its time. I took the feedback that you all gave me after my initial property tax freeze on the tax rate to heart in a moment of brilliance late last night. I came up with this version, and I cut it down to a 2-year freeze, and it's a freeze on the actual tax bill itself.
Thank you.
So that, as you mentioned, if I froze the rate and things were reappraised, that could result in an increase. This obviously freezes the bill as it sits and has some carve outs if there are some, if the property is developed in that 2 years and improved, there would be a process to figure out the tax rate for an improved property. And likewise, if a property was downgraded, it would have some latitude in there for, through the administrative process to figure that out. And that's about it. So simple.
Thanks. I really appreciate the intent of the bill, and I think everyone in this room, I know everyone in the whole building and probably the whole state wants us to keep property taxes as low as possible, but this room has really, folks around this table have worked very, very hard on that. And the intent language, there's intent language in Act 73 that's really explicit about using the changes that we're making to property taxes to lower everyone's homestead tax bills to where the lowest in the state are right now. So very much share that desire, and I've done a lot of work on it. Do you have any idea how much you're talking about general fund we would be using next year or the year?
I don't think anybody has any idea because we don't know how the school budgets are going to come out.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the mystery. We don't know if the education reform is going to be done. And, the nice thing about being in the legislature is if we do manage to get some actual granular education reform past this session, we can certainly, look at repealing this down the road. But for the time being, given the movement that we've seen in trying to come together to get education reform done, I feel like we owe it to Vermonters to give them the peace of mind that if nothing were to happen this session, their property taxes aren't going to go up for the next 2 years. I think we owe that to Vermonters.
In the most ambitious expedited timeline that we had laid out in Act 73 and that the governor proposed, if everything went exactly according to plan, we're still a few years out. And I just want to say that for the record, because I felt like the last few days on the floor, that detail got lost a little bit. And I think that's an important piece. That doesn't take away or add to your bill in either way. I just didn't say it on the floor. And so I'm saying it now because it got leftover words this week, I guess. Any questions for Representative Galfetti?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I'm going to support this just because, looking more recently at that 40% increase in the property taxes over the last number of years. And I just think it's going to signal an effort that we're serious. But anyway, that's why I'm supporting this. Just acknowledge that can't continue down that road. And I know we're trying with Act 73 and foundation forming on that, supportive along those lines. But I know for a fact that as our aging population is out there and has a good chunk of the property and land and all that, it's really becoming a burden. So I'm gonna throw my support towards it.
Yes, Gina.
Of course.
Gina,
Anything wrong?
if we were to do this, then the way I'm thinking of the bill is that we would have to take the increase that school boards experience, like, you know, paying the bus drivers all the cost of living raise and the heat and getting the driveway plowed, all that stuff. The increases they have, they'd have to take that out of the rest of the taxes that we use to fund the ed fund. So how would you think that that would work?
Well, I mean, the overages would just, whatever bleeds over comes out of the general fund.
Out of the general
Yeah, as this is written, yeah.
We're gonna let Representative Brennan finish.
But what about the other taxes we use to build the ed fund? You wouldn't touch those? You'd leave those right where they are?
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't change the source of funding and for anything in any way. All the sources remain the same, and I'm not sure if I understand your question.
The other sources like purchase and use, well, which we're getting rid of that bit by bit, but sales tax and the lottery and all those other things that go into the ed fund.
Mhm.
I don't think the increase would ever be enough to cover what the property tax is. Property tax is about 40% of the whole cost.
Right,
So if we cap that, we'd have to get the money that schools need to pay to keep their schools buildings open.
right.
We'd have to get that difference from somewhere,
The general fund,
scoop it out of general fund.
yeah.
Do we have enough money in the general fund to do that?
Only if we make fiscally responsible decisions with all the programming that we have when we're, looking at line items on the general fund. I mean, I think the consensus among Vermonters is that it's time for the legislature to start budgeting with the intent to fund what Vermonters can afford. And if that means that cuts have to be made to programs that are in the general fund, I think that Vermonters are ready for us to pull together and do that. And it's not, it's not going to feel great to have to cut programs, but the reality is 633,000 people can only afford so much. And this puts our feet to the fire to live in a budget for the state of Vermont within what we can afford. And that is the reality that every Vermonter is facing, that all of us, including myself, that don't have health insurance, that can barely pay their mortgage, need the state of Vermont to start understanding that that is real.
The other idea I had is just to get rid of income sensitivity. The problem is
Or lower the income sensitivity.
I should really talk about this, but the
You sound like you might have an amendment there, Representative Brandon.
things that I think will actually work.
Right.
And, thinking of all the problems to this, and I don't see a way to piece it all together.
Okay.
The way that our system works, I think it's the system that's broken. And the system is that if local voters tell the school boards, we want this, and they approve their budgets, that budget comes to us here in this room, boom, on our desks. We got to figure out a way to come up with the money.
Right.
Right now, we're using property and all these other little taxes to put the ed fund together. So if we have a cap of any kind there,
Mhm.
that means we've got to find some other way to get that money that the voters have told us they want. It's not that
I totally understand what you're saying, Rep. Brannigan, and I think that perhaps when the same voters that approve the school budgets see the very real cost to the general fund when they're improving less than responsible budgetary increases, then that will correlate into more fiscal discipline on school boards.
Representative Guthrie, do you have a sense of how many positions you need to eliminate from state government jobs in order to cover this?
I don't think we necessarily have to eliminate any state government jobs. I think that's completely speculative.
Cut that, sorry.
What would I cut? That's not my job. I don't sit on a pros.
Yesterday, Representative Scheid was said that this one piece of the budget that was, you know, one of the last pieces they were able to like squeak in there was, I don't know if you've heard this, I was blown, there's like a lot of really emotional stuff happening on the floor this week. And this was about folks who are blind and deaf. And did everyone hear this? And like have translators that communicate with like finger touches. And that was cut from the federal budget. We had to add it to the state budget. And I was just, and like the Austin School, which is the, you know, the school for the deaf and hard of hearing is in Brattleboro. And like, I feel like generally very involved in those kinds of issues. And I just like, I had no idea about this. That really blew me away.
Yeah,
It's like the level of vulnerability that we are to meet people's needs we are covering in the general fund right now and just like barely squeaking through the general fund, which is very striking to me. Does anyone else have anything they want to?
Is, I believe there's another bill out there, isn't it, on the Senate side, similar to this?
Oh, so I think you mean S-220, Senator Bruce bill, that just arrived today, yesterday, sometime.
We've had it for.
Okay, and it was scheduled, we were gonna do a walkthrough of it yesterday, but then we never meet, really, we don't meet as a committee very much anymore. A few amendments, but we're gonna look at it next week. And it's, I think a similar intent to keep property taxes as low as possible, but has a quite different mechanism. So,
And
yeah.
I would also say, you know, like rent controls, you know, controlling what, you know, the cost of our education is by capping it. Those things really, I think, over time show that they're not very effective. I could be wrong, but, you know, I think there is a lot of reports on that as well.
I really, I mean, much as I hate to say it, but I agree with you. And actually, though, every time we've done this, what we do is we create a balloon the year the caps run out, and we're not addressing the real problems. Though can I make a joke? Maybe not.
I'm all the time, so.
I mean, will it be worse than the Charlie Sheen?
No, there is an irony that this might actually help paper chase.
There is an irony. Thank you, Representative Gulfetti.
thank you. I thank the committee through the time.
And we're working on an education bill over the next 2 weeks. So if you want to be in touch with members of the committee about a way to sort of integrate some of your thinking into that with a longer time frame for testimony, that might be helpful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm going to ask for a straw poll of folks who are interested in declining the amendment. All those in favor.
You phrase that, sorry.
No, it's so hard. Everyone that wants to find it unfavorable, please raise your hand. Folks who would like to find it favorable.
So we found it unfavorable, 9-3.
I saw 9-2.
9-2. How do we get an extra member of the committee? 9-2-0.
I think Kirby is actually.
I'm an honorary member.
No.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Great.
Did you switch off?